Hey guys, happy sip day.
Happy
And
Saturday.
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, almost forgot. Happy
I mean,
St.
I'm the only
Patrick's.
one with green. Come on.
I do have green pants. So
Okay, good.
Like I'm trying to look, are there any green accents on my shirt, but I don't see.
Right.
I wear green pants.
There you go.
My pants wardrobe is more
Allegedly.
loud than my
Right.
shirts, right? So
Right. I feel like I
So,
forgot the last couple of years, so I actually remember this morning.
there you go. Okay.
Right.
so did anything interesting come up in your meetings this week, guys?
So the maybe three or four different events of at a clients asking about liability and how to mitigate liability concerns that either happened in the past or could potentially happen in the future.
hmm
So a lot of my time in client meetings last week was the different things to consider when trying to mitigate liability in the future. It's hard to do it in the past, which one client was, and he quickly realized it's hey, let's just worry about the future. You can't worry about the past and shift things around. So a couple of different tactics or options. I like options better than tactics. So options that clients can consider would be one is making sure that whatever company that you're working under, whether it's LLC, S Corp, C Corp, that you do everything you can to not allow anyone to pierce that corporate veil.
Yeah.
Meaning in corporations, you got to have minutes every year. You have to make sure that all of your documents are up to speed for directors and officers. So that's one way. Second way would be umbrella insurance and taking a look at what your limits are for umbrella and what that umbrella actually covers. You need to make sure that it has auto, home, business, etc. On the umbrella. And then the last idea that was discussed last week was irrevocable trust, and does it make sense to transfer any assets into an irrevocable trust, whether it's the assets that you're concerned about liability or it's the assets you're trying to protect from the liability concern in your own name. So those were the three topics that spent a lot of time last week. So I figured we do one of those. Which one do you think would be the best, ladies?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting just because you span so much like personal and business owner, and there's obviously a lot of overlap depending on who you are and what you're doing. Pull the needle on umbrella insurance because I feel like for especially our client market, that kind of applies to a lot of our clients and if you're non-business owners. So let's pull at that thread. What are your thoughts around umbrella insurance and why it would be appropriate and what it covers and kind of those things?
Hmm? Sure. So umbrella is actually I'll call it an endorsement. It's actually a separate policy, but it goes hand in hand with your homeowner's insurance, your personal homeowner's insurance. So whoever writes, whatever company writes the homeowners, generally would write the umbrella.
Mhm.
So you got to contact your PNC agent to discuss that. So I did find out last week, I thought the maximum limit for an umbrella was $5 million
Mhm.
with no real limitations to that policy itself. But I found that you can go up to 10 million. So the
Oh,
client I spoke with last week um, decided to use a $10 million umbrella. Going back to some due diligence, I talked with actually my personal PNC agent and asked them what would be the rule of thumb for how much to cover. What should that umbrella liability be, that limit be? And he came back and said the rule of thumb would be whatever your balance sheet is.
right.
So you look at your net worth, and whatever your net worth is, that's in a perfect world should be the amount of umbrella coverage that you have.
Right.
So you do umbrella, so homeowners pays first. So you can look at your limit on homeowners and then you add the umbrella on top. So if your net worth is $11 million and your homeowners is 1 million limit, then you'd be okay with a $10 million umbrella.
Right.
So it stacks on top of each other. So
So
that's the rule of thumb. Sorry, go ahead, Katie.
oh, no, I was going to say, so the umbrella insurance is acting as like an extra safety net on top of your homeowners in case of a super, potential disastrous litigation or some sort of like very out of the normal high expense kind of litigation.
Correct. And a simple example would be, so you asked the question, the umbrella will cover auto liability, homeowner's liability. So if you're in a car accident and it was your fault and the person you hit, let's just say has head trauma or neck trauma, and there's a ton of medical expenses associated with that person that you hit, a lot of times that's going to go above and beyond your auto liability limit.
Hmm.
That is a prime example of when an umbrella would be helpful
Yeah.
to have over and above the auto. So, your auto limits are, you kind of go with the standard, hey, you ask your PNC agent what that is, but then in those extenuating circumstances, the umbrella is going to really, really help. Or if someone slips and falls outside your house and they do have head trauma or neck or back or whatever, then the umbrella would tack on top of your homeowner's limit
Right.
as well. So from the business side, if you are personally liable for whatever happened on the business side, then there is a chance that the umbrella could also cover up the business side
Oh,
as
wow.
but there's a lot of red tape, um, especially if you're doing everything that you should on the corporate side. It shouldn't be personally liable, right? Because it's inside the LLC, S Corp, C Corp, uh, hopefully.
In a
Hmm.
But
perfect
if,
world.
right, in a perfect world. So that's another kind of suggestion. Make sure if you have a lot of liability potential in your business, that you don't have a bunch of cash sitting around in your business accounts. So you need to move and you need to be conscious of a bunch of cash sitting at the business side, which would be affected by a liability claim on the business side.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, it's not just, oh yeah, do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of considerations. But the
Yeah.
umbrella, it's relatively cheap. I mean, this quote that came back for $10 million is about $3,000 of cost a year.
Yeah.
That would have
Yeah.
been a lot higher.
Which
So
obviously you should talk to your property and casualty agents. We are not property and casualty agents at our office, but I know the kind of preach amongst the industry is insurance is best used when it's low probability but high severity or high cost associated with it. So umbrella is the quintessential kind of type of this, right? This is the highest of severity and hopefully the lowest probability that you'll have. So it's definitely worth talking to your agent. And it's probably, Greg, it's probably the gap you see the most in people's plans from a PNC standpoint.
yeah, and that's something I don't understand. We see it a lot where we'll bring it up and either the client doesn't know that it exists or what it is, or they do have a small limit, but it's probably because we mentioned it 15 years ago and now their net worth has grown. So the PNC agents uh, aren't really covering that from what
Mhm.
I can see.
Yeah.
So, if you're a PNC agent, start talking about umbrella and you're going to keep your clients.
Is
The
there
more
like a
you know.
particular client that this wouldn't be ideal for? Would it only just basically go down to cost? Like if you're not at a place to pay the premium, that's why you wouldn't consider this policy?
Good question. I think that goes into it. But it would also be, what does your balance sheet say?
Okay.
So if your balance sheet is $300,000 and your homeowners and your auto limit is $300,000, then most of the time you wouldn't need an umbrella. Because cost, I mean, if you go down to 1 million of coverage,
Mhm.
it's $300 a year,
Yeah.
$400 a year. So it's more about what your balance sheet is and what your limits on auto and home, less on how much the premium is because it's so cheap. And the reason it's so cheap is it doesn't it's the secondary coverage. It's not the primary coverage. So the insurance company doesn't have a lot of claims, at least it
Right.
appears from a premium standpoint, for them to charge more. So look at your balance sheet, look at your limits on auto and home to see if an umbrella would make sense, and then reach out to your PNC agent to get a quote and get their opinion, since they're licensed, they're the specialist in this area,
Yeah.
to give you the final recommendation.
Good. Well, good tips. Thank you. And well, I'll have to go call my agent.
There you go. Action.
Hi, guys.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Guys.